Good morning. The secret of happiness is reverence for all life.
Okay, good morning, dear friends, and a very happy Swami's Discipleship anniversary to everyone. And this morning we will share some inspiration around that. And this is a special day, I think, not only for Swamiji. This is actually very strange in some ways that this is the day when Swamiji went and become a disciple of Master. So what's there for us, isn't it? But isn't it when this is the whole point? That was the beginning. Why? What brings us here at the moment? If you see, it is Swamiji's all creations, an entire life that he spent to bring in some ways Master in various different forms, and probably many different forms, as each one of us probably are attuned and then what do you say, are attracted to one particular or different expressions of the same consciousness, and that's Swami's life. And today was the beginning of that day. At the age of 22, a very young Swami, not Swami at that time, just went, Donald Walter, and without having no context about what that guru is, orange robe, long-haired, brown color looking man who was not a very commonplace situation at that time. And he said, I want to be your disciple. And this relation of Master and Swami probably goes quite a lifetime before as well. And this lifetime also it started. And through that journey, I think it also brought a whole bunch of beautiful things and this expression to all of us. And that, I think all of us will be very grateful for that, that this kind of aspect of our life has been offered to us. And of course, we have our own other responsibilities in the world, but underneath of it, this particular expression, which probably has become an integral part of most of our lives. So we cannot miss but thank Swamiji, and not just thank in that sense, try to follow his example. You see, like you see the picture that Sunny has, and that's precisely, it's a very beautiful picture. This is a picture, the photographer, anybody knows who is the photographer of this picture? Jayanti knows, she's ready to unmute. Who? Devarshi, yes, Naya Swami Devarshi clicked this picture, and then he will tell you more about the day itself where he felt that Swamiji was on a particular bhav of his own, and then he tried to capture that glimpse. But you see, that is how he wanted to be known also as a great disciple, as an exemplary disciple, and that's why he always points himself. It's not, don't look at me, look at the master. And that's how this picture also signifies in many ways. So that's what we will do this morning. And as you see, we have many people here. Many of them have the privilege, including myself, to at least be able to see Swamiji in the physical form. And then not that that itself is a great achievement or a great, it is certainly a great blessing, I must say, but by no means I'm trying to restrict it in that way. But it was sweet to see him also in that way. And that's why in this morning, we also thought those who have spent, they will probably also share some remnants from that time and some life stories and inspiration that each one of us have drawn from his life in itself. So with that, we will begin. We will first do a few chants. Again, these chants are written, composed, music given by Swamiji. Another one, particularly, I am grateful for that aspect of him, which is music, because it just helps me much easier to connect it. I guess Sunny will agree to that, and then both Jayanti and Pranita as well. So we'll do a few chants, a short meditation, and that will lead us further into the session. So with that, let's begin ourselves with a prayer. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, friend, beloved God, great Gurus, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashay, Swami Shri Yukteswar Ji, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints and sages of all religions, beloved Swamiji, humbly and lovingly we bow before all of you. Divine Masters, beloved Swamiji, thank you for your presence in our lives. Thank you for guiding us into our meditations and into our everyday life. Help us to attune ourselves to your consciousness. Help us to be your ever more willing and ever more perfect instrument into this world. We offer you ourselves unreservedly as your channels, the channels of your consciousness, the channels of anything that you want to give to your children through us, to us. We love you, Masters. We love you, Swamiji. Be with us all the time. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So let's begin with a few chants, a short meditation. chant, we will take into a short meditation. Shri Yogananda. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Steal into my heart of hearts, banish my Let's meditate. We'll meditate for about 10 minutes. It's a short meditation, but try and invoke the presence of Swamiji, especially in this morning, and try to feel his presence in your heart. Very personally, try and connect with him in this meditation. Let's meditate.
Staying in this feeling of devotion, let us now end our meditation and watch a video of our beloved Swamiji.
When the disciple is ready, the Guru will come. The first words I addressed to Paramahansa Yogananda were, I want to be your disciple. I had to.
Naya Swami Kriyananda's self-definition was simple. I want to be a good disciple. Swami Kriyananda met his Guru Paramhansa Yogananda in 1948 and spread his worldwide message of self-realization for 65 years. He once said, I can no longer tell where Swami Kriyananda ends and my Guru begins.
My Guru often would speak about the importance of attunement. The more I tuned in to my Guru's consciousness, the more I realized that that's what I was, that my nature is Satchidananda. The most important thing that the Guru has to give you is his consciousness, his freedom.
Namaste. My name is Jayanti. A very happy Swami's discipleship day to you all. I came onto this path in this lifetime in 2010, and I had the good fortune to meet Swamiji, be in his presence till his passing when he would visit India. And any talks that happened in Gurgaon, I again had the good fortune to lead the team of people who were ushering in that place. And Swamiji, during his very advanced age, due to various problems, illnesses, uh, he had become very frail. So people had to hold on to him and bringing into the auditorium. And a few of us would circle around him, forming a human chain so that nobody just rushed towards him to touch his feet or something, because that can topple him. So the memory that always comes to me whenever I think of those moments is when he would pass by. There was so much of joy, so much of love flowing through him. And you knew that he was just being a channel for Master's love, Master's joy to flow through him. And during his last talk here in Gurgaon, um, everybody, they were helping him go up the stage, helped him to sit down. And then the spotlight comes on him, and then he starts talking. And you find a complete transformation about him, like so much of power, so much of wisdom flowing through him. I mean, the ears just fell off from him when he was talking. Again, all this is like, it's like he was just being a pure channel for the divine to flow through him, for the masters to flow through him. He was just manifesting it all. So a couple of years back, the movie came, The Answer. And the thing that really struck me in that movie is the moment that Amit was just talking about, when Swamiji, a young 22-year-old young man, walks into Master's chamber. Master asks him to come and kneel down in front of him, and he places his finger on his heart. Swamiji says that his finger vibrated. And when I was watching, and I have seen this movie more than 5 times, I think, and every time when I watch that movie, the thought that comes at that moment is, this is the moment that planted the seed of each one of us who have come through Swamiji on this path. All of us to this day, and those who will come in future. The seed of that discipleship was, the seed was planted that day. Through Swamiji discipleship, each one of us became the disciple who were to come in future. It's a very, very significant moment for each one of us who have come through Swamiji. And all his life, for us, when we come and we take the various levels, at the end of level 3, we go through this discipleship ceremony, which is such a beautiful ceremony. We say our discipleship vow. But What is more important than just saying a word, the words? And when we see the life of Swamiji, that day when he was initiated into this discipleship, till the day of his passing, every moment, every breath, he was trying to be the good disciple, opening himself up so that the master can take charge of his life, do what needs to be done through him and to him. Even the worst moments of his life, I remember in one of Swamiji's talk when he said that when he had to leave his master's organization, it was a very difficult time of his life, and he had written to Ananda Mohima about it, and she had written to him saying, take this as a blessing from your master. And he says that at that moment, I didn't understand. I mean, how can this be a blessing for me? But on hindsight, when you look at later on what Swamiji managed to do, everything that he did, the setting up of Ananda, the communities, the books he wrote, the music he wrote, he couldn't have done otherwise. So that is the takeaway for me from Swamiji's life, that everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever comes, we need to take this everything as a blessing from the master, open ourselves. And he didn't just wait passively for the master to work through him. He put out that energy. He was always dynamically working towards something. I think that is something all of us need to learn from his life, that putting out that energy and being open for master to flow through him, to do what is the divine will. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayanti. Hello, everyone. I am Sunny. I'll just recount certain personal incidents where I really felt Swamiji. And, thanks for this opportunity, because I was able to go back in time since 2010 when I actually first came to Ananda. Looking at all emails around that time, trying to figure out, some things. It was just wonderful. My first interaction with Swamiji was obviously, like all of us, through Raja Yoga book. So I fell in love immediately after reading that book. And I remember telling Sakshi, who's my sister, that, you've got to come to this place. It's, something which we internally feel. Somebody has put it very simply on paper and pen, and, how it is. So that was my first love for Swamiji. And I had, vouched that, okay, let me meet this person howsoever possible. During this time, so this was 2010 and 11, and I used to travel to Switzerland. So I got like a musical box which plays music, like a happy birthday music in it. And it was something very significant, like for me. And I remember to give this to Lakshmanan, to give it to Swamiji. So I sent it via Dhanaji, because she was going to US to, and where Swamiji was. And I could not meet him. And this was for his birthday. So I said that, please give it to him on his birthday. And I forgot about it. But then on that day, I got this email from Lakshmanan that Swamiji is really thanking me for it. And particularly, he wrote there that he thanks me for the kind thoughts which came along with it. That was almost so wonderful. And, obviously you start realizing that he's not bound by this only personality, but he can somebody who can read behind even the material things. So what is your intent behind things, and so on and so forth. But there was wonderful teachings coming, and, Swamiji's presence and love which comes with that mail. Then I happened to travel to Ananda village for a pilgrimage, and this is why I went, because I wanted to meet Swamiji. But 3 to 4 days before it, he actually had a change of plan and he moved to Italy. So we got this news when, we had done the bookings and all, but we were on the plane. I was on the plane and reading few of the books on crystal hermitage and all. And somewhere I had this thought that, I'm going for Swamiji, but he's not there. But in that book, he particularly kinds of mentions, about crystal hermitage when it was coming, when Ananda village was coming, that if you want, attune to my consciousness. So this is what the gist out of it was, that I am actually not the physical body of Swami which you are looking for. And it is better actually if you first associate with me via my music, via the teachings, via the consciousness. And that's what I learned. And when I went to Ananda village, that's what I saw, because I saw Swamiji or Master in so many different souls. So that was something which was great. Then finally he came to Gurgaon. So, and when he was in Gurgaon, there was a group of people who was all about him. And, we had to take appointments to meet him because there are so many people in line. And generally, Indians will rush to him and there's we would all day be with him. So particularly this was a time when, he was in his home and Narayani and Leela ji was there with him. And I happened to discuss, and I was like, oh, you are so fortunate that you are with him. And the reply which, I got was that maybe there are people who really don't have to be also physically with him for their karma and for this. So people who are with them, who are physically with them, just did not also assume that this is something obviously it's a great blessing, as Amit said. But it is not something that we cannot achieve because he's still there in our hearts and in our consciousness as ever. Okay, then finally I met him in Gurgaon. This is one incident where I chose to kind of go forward and sit down, very close to his feet, because I thought that, I will be able to touch his feet and so on and so forth. So this was a satsang in Gurgaon. And I happened to touch his feet. And my memory of that touching is that when I placed my finger on his feet, I really didn't feel like a physical body. And this is something which is almost like akin to that when you touch the temple doors. So you touch the temple, but you know that the God is present somewhere all around. So that was a very precious moment I had with him. There was a Tivoli garden talk, so we worked really hard for it in the morning, going at 3 to 4, for newspaper publishing, putting the flyers in. So a lot of people did a lot of seva. And I remember him sending a mail to Dhyana ji, yes, this is how seva is done. So, he used to come back and, that appreciation from him just meant that, okay, God is acknowledging that whatever efforts you are putting is great. So, still have those mails which I was seeing yesterday. It's very good. In one of the teas which we had, I bought a new kurta and I went, and it's a white kurta with very nice work done on it. And I went to that thing, and Swamiji's first reaction was, oh, what a nice kurta. So I was so, happy just receiving that. I said, it's from Vrindavan. So he was, and that talk, a very small talk, but those memories I wanted to share. And that kurta I used for all kriyas henceforth. Now it is almost not usable, but I have still kept it. It's a very nice memory I have of him. What I learned is whenever he used to come to Gurgaon, it was sure that things are going to change. Wherever we are, there were teams, projects, everybody used to move. It was like a big ball of energy used to come. But my understanding of it was he's just asking us to rise above our own limitations, our own thoughts, our own, crisscross with different devotees, with people, with our own values, and just rise above to manifest something which is so good as Ananda. Then in a Mumbai talk, I had gone and, I was volunteering there. And when I came, I was almost, after the volunteering, the talk had started and I was sitting on the last seat. And frankly, I couldn't hear anything. And, because of the acoustics of the auditorium. But I remember just to be in that presence even, and, it was filled, the whole hall was filled. And when he was speaking, it was not the words which came, but like a ball of energy. And that ball of energy was particularly like a peace ball. And it just used to happen in so many of your talks. My experience was that I was lost of words. It was all of the vibration which I used to receive, and obviously something inside of me used to just go away. He was mostly impersonal when I was around him, and that's what I learned, that God is impersonal. So he used to imitate, I think, God or Guru for me, that be impersonal, don't acknowledge that Sunny is there. And I was just always think that will he say anything to me? But then there were times when you were in need of something, and he responds. He responds till date. So there are two things which happened with me even after his passing away, which I'll just try and share to close. One was that he came in one of my dreams after his passing away, and I was able to touch his feet. He was sitting in my home, my earlier home in the drawing room. So it was a very nice dream. The second is we had gone to Pune in 2012, few of the Gurgaon devotees, and gifted him a boutique item, master's picture, as a gift from Gurgaon devotees. And when I went back years later in Pune, we were just looking at Swamiji's home there, which is now with all artifacts, and I was looking for this picture, and the doubt was that maybe I have drifted it attunement, maybe he didn't acknowledge us, because he used to offer everything to master. That's what my experience was. And finally I saw that master's picture, actually it's going through all the rooms. Finally it was put at the center picture in his meditation room. So that kind of concluded the answer for me, that he was beyond, he knew God. So for me to meet somebody like Swami in this lifetime has been such a great blessing. But as Jayanti said, that it is his consciousness which is live again. He's still helping us so much, and just trying to be as he was, a good disciple of Yogananda. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunny and Jayanti. What a beautiful words to reminisce about Swami Kriyananda. Good morning, friends. My name is Pranita, and what a coincidence that I've also been associated with this path and had the privilege of meeting Swamiji in person in 2010. Same year as Jayanti and Sunny also mentioned. That's a beautiful coincidence. Two things that come to my mind when Nitendra told me that I would have this privilege to talk about how Swamiji has played a role in my life. The first thing that came to my mind was the words of this beautiful chant: I have made thee pole star of my life. When I think about Swamiji, about meeting him in person, in the talks that he gave in Gurgaon, as Sunny mentioned, in the numerous fun tea events that we used to have, that thought has always stayed with me. That the mind which had a number of questions, which was looking for some answers, which was a little moving here and there, could find its real center, just like a radio would try and find that frequency. But just the association with Swamiji, for me, and I'm very grateful that it is also for my family, has really been that attunement and that needle coming to a single place, and then me understanding the meaning of this real chant, the pole star of my life, the pole star of our lives. Thinking about Swamiji in person, I have a very, very similar thought that Jayanti also shared. In this path, Master and Swamiji always teach us that happiness is a choice. You can choose to be joyful. And I think Swamiji for me embodied what joy meant. Before actually meeting him, and we were just given the information that Swamiji is coming to India, to Gurgaon, and that was the first time I was to see him. Of course, I had seen him in his pictures, but I wasn't sure if he would be the same joyful as one would ask him to pose for a camera picture. But every single second that I was in his presence, at the talk in the Tivoli Garden, meeting him at lunch once in a restaurant, every single second I could really see that he was an embodiment of joy. Right? With hundreds and thousands of people he would meet every day. Right? A man at that age, physically, tends to get a bit tired and feel like, okay, now I need some rest. But there could be another person coming in after him having met 1,000, and he would greet that person with the same joy, the same energy, the same enthusiasm. So for me, I think these 2 points really sum up my reminiscence of Swami Kriyananda, and I always feel so grateful for his presence in our lives, for his music, for his teachings, his books, and just the way how he showed us how life is truly lived. So I'm very, very grateful to that. And as Amit very nicely mentioned, in body or outside, it is for us as his disciples to really understand and and attune ourselves to his teaching more than just his personality with his magnetism as such. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranita. Thank you, Sunny. Thank you, Jayanti, for those beautiful, beautiful stories. I'll just share a few because I think it's already just enough to talk about him, and then that sort of just takes care of the rest of it, isn't it? Sometimes the satsangs are very easy. I remember I didn't meet him much in India actually. First time I saw was in USA. But when I returned, this was in Matunde, Pune community, where there were around like 30, 40 people at that moment living there. So I think most of us, including I think Sunny and Jayanti, we met Swamiji towards the later part of his life, isn't it? But you all probably have heard the story of him meeting Jyotishji for the first time. When Swamiji was doing his work alone and Jyotishji walks in. And you remember what he asked, and Jyotishji always makes fun of that story also a little bit. He gently asked him, I'm doing a project, would you like to help? And to that gentle invitation, Jyotishji said yes. And then he said he didn't know it was going to be a lifetime project. But you see, and one can understand that, yes, Swamiji was just starting the work of Ananda. And then so he didn't know Jyotishji. So he asked it as a question. When I met, and when probably most of you also met him, when he was already an established entity. Celebrity isn't the right word, but yes, there were a lot of people, as Sunny was rightly saying, especially in India, we don't necessarily, privacy isn't necessarily on our immediate awareness, isn't it? Where is Swamiji's feet and 100 people won't hesitate to go and look for them somewhere. So he was quite, what I want to say is like, yeah, he was very not easily accessible and he was very established. People really wanted even like glimpses of him. So, but he was just himself and he was still doing a lot of projects. And again, like 2003, when he decided to come to India, it wasn't necessarily, he was a very young in the body in that sense. So, and then Pune community, if you guys have been there at some point, in his home, that built like a small walkway. And towards the end of the walkway was like a area they had made, which is where they used to pause because it was too far a walk for him otherwise. So they would just go there, sit with Narayani, Shurjo, and a few handful other people. They will have chai, and that was also the time when they will think about something. And many projects also originated there. So if you wanted to be around that energy, then maybe around that evening time, you should basically, the suggested was you just hover around in that area somewhere. And if you want to avoid, then basically stay as far away from that energy as you can. So one of those times when I think they were working that, and that's the time when I was living in the uphill monastery, and I was just running down, probably for playing football, I don't know what it was. And then that's the time Swamiji was thinking about his lessons in self-realization. This is one of this last contribution, last gift, I may say, he gave to all of us, where he rewrote some of the lessons. So he rewrote them and he wanted now to offer them in some way or the other in more of an electronic format. So Shurjo, Narayani and a few others were there. And they were talking about like, oh, so who can do it? We need a technical person. That's the same time I was just running down the hill. So Shurjo pointed, he can do that. And Swamiji, of course, didn't know me. And then Shurjo asked me and said, sure, yeah, wasn't necessarily a big project. I was happy to do that. And SA was also another person, you know. And after that, Shurjo told me, okay, Swamiji wanted to talk to you about that project. sure. I was prepared, so I went. It was not like a long meeting. It was just where the dining area or the coffee place at that time it was. Swamiji was sitting, so Shurjo took me to him and said, he asked me, he said, I just rewrote the lessons in self-realization and I want to make them available to the people in digital format. Will you help me? And I had no idea how to respond to that question. So of course, why even this question? But you see, it was so beautiful, meaning just the same energy he had when he met for the first time to Jyotish. He asked the same question because he felt strongly to do that, but he would never assume anything. And it didn't matter to him. Now there are like 10,000 people drooling to have like a one word out of his mouth, and then just his command would be thy word kind of a thing, and then go for it. But still in the midst of that, to me, I do not mean to demean me, but he just still asks with the same humility, will you help? And of course it was, yeah, and then we just said yes, and then like overnight with his words like that, he would also give you tremendous amount of energy. One other story, I think I've written a small blog around that, which is shared. This was similar time also. And this was again when he was having a meeting with some of us, and then I have heard this word, phrase where people said, if you want to know me, listen to my music. Swamiji said something like that, if you want to understand music. I said, okay, I was very curious. And I liked his music, so it was very easy doorway for me also to sort of try to tune in and whatnot. But now I was curious, I wanted to know this for masters. Like I knew the pictures, very intellectual, so I didn't quite understand how do I bypass my own intellect, and then maybe he would have a shortcut like that as well. So in that meeting, we asked him, Swamiji, you say, if you want to know me, listen to my music. If I want to know our masters, what can we do? So he paused for a moment, and then he responded saying, if you want to know me as a person, listen to me, listen to my music. But he also said that if you want to know me really, then you have to focus here at the point between the eyebrows and try to feel my consciousness. And then he says, in the same way, you could do it for any of the masters that you want to understand. And I think in that, just the way we were watching that 1 minute video, that is what he did for entire his life. You see that the more, and that is also he's inviting us to do as well. He said like the more you try to connect to that consciousness some way or the other, whatever works for us, that we understand it. And that's why he says, the more I focused on that consciousness, I realized I am that consciousness. And when you remain in that more and more, what else will flow through you? And I think at this point, as we honor his existence, honor his coming, honor his life, that is probably his biggest request. And there will be a story that Kanaji will tell you tomorrow. I will let her tell that. But that consciousness is what is probably the need of it. As Ananda, what is our job? We are like non-profit organization, but we are not a charitable organization. Not that we shouldn't be, but we have something to offer to the world, isn't it? Why did Swami founded Ananda? What is the purpose? The purpose is to share that consciousness with everything. And it doesn't necessarily have to stop in the satsangs alone. Just the way they say Swami Paramahansa Yogananda ji was a prema avatar. He was an incarnation of love. But by tuning into him, Swami didn't become prema avatar. I mean, he was loving. But he told that after me, what will replace me? He said kindness. You see, inside ourselves is also some kind of a spark of that same divinity. And that has a purpose. Would be more and more tuning to these guys, this consciousness, that spark will just become much more lightened up. And this time especially, there's a lot of talk around awareness for these times. I feel very strongly that our strongest contribution could be just be that kind, loving person, whichever way you feel the most, and then bring that consciousness into your life first, and through you, your surrounding, your immediate surrounding, wherever and whenever it is needed, absolutely. May not be very easy, not necessarily in the best time, but that is our challenge. You see, that is the only thing that we can justify. Swami did so many things. All the music, all the books, he didn't need to do any of them. He knew it, but he just did it so that at least one person, he said, can find some inspiration through that channel. And same way, even if we have a little bit of joy, a little bit of peace, the moment we create avenues through us, I think he will be pleased. And that will be a great gift, a great honor, and great gratitude that we can offer to him as his students, as his children. Joy to you. Let's just take a brief moment, like a minute of meditation. We are just tuning into as well everything that we said so far, something you may have been able to. I see Kuldeepji, Natrajan, Preeti, and Sanjay, many of them probably have met Swamiji at some point in time. So let's take a minute of silence as we again personally tune into him, give him a sense of gratitude and resolve that I will do my part and now and as much as I can. Maybe I'll request Jayanti to end that meditation, lead us into a healing prayer. So just a minute or so.
And with that, let's end today's satsang, keeping Master and Swamiji in our hearts and sharing the blessings that we receive today to all those souls who are in need. Let's pray together. Divine Mother, thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all thy children. Manifest thy healing presence in all bodies, all minds, and all souls. Put our hands together. Let's chant Om 3 times, sending out waves of Om out into this world. Divine Mother, may thy love shine on the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to share thy love with all whom we meet. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you, Amit, Sunny, and Jayanti. On this blessed day of Swami's discipleship, a quick announcement. We will be starting with the level 1 introduction to Kriya Yoga classes, which will be held today from 11 to 1 and tomorrow at the same time. Tomorrow, Dhyanaji will be leading the satsang, and the topic for the satsang is I want to be your disciple, which will be followed by the healing and then a tea with Dhyanaji. So look forward to seeing everybody in these events. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Thank you once again.